Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Indieheads podcast. I'm your host, Matty, a.k.a. @MonorailPrince on Twitter. On this episode of the pod, we have Will.
What's crack-a-lackin'?
We got Dill.
Howdy.
And we got Jake.
I wish my name rhymed with Will and Dill.
Jill.
Yeah, there we go. It's Jill. Hello.
And I'm Mill. Welcome back to the podcast, folks. As you can probably see by the title, we are now finally doing our Album of the Year podcast almost at the end of the month of January. Do not ask. Shit happens. We have hopefully fed you little piggies with the Discog breakdown, which Jake and Alex have thankfully been doing for our first season of the show, going through Phil Elverum's discography. Yes. It's been some good pods. If you have not been listening to them already, go ahead and go listen to them. They're a lot of fun. They're very insightful. They're fun.
Hell yeah.
They called me the Emperor on one of them. I think that was sweet. Here we are, folks. We're going through our top 10 albums of 2019. And usually we do these in two podcasts, but because we're so late, we're going to try and knock them out all in one podcast. Some we're not going to go too in-depth on, as we talked about a few of these on previous podcasts. And also, not all of us are, for at least one or two, we're not all of us are super into these records. But, like I said, this is the consensus podcast list. This is every member put in their list. We aggregated it. We got our list, and we're here to fucking rock and roll. So coming in at number 10, Big Thief with UFOF. And Dill, you wanted to talk about this record a little bit,
It's funny that you
right?
said rock and roll, then you said Dig Thief.
Did I say Dig Thief?
Dick Thief.
Dill, what are your thoughts on Dick Thief? The Steelers of
I don't know a Dig Thief.
Boy, me Dick.
Didn't really listen to a whole lot of them last year. What I did listen to a whole lot of was Big Thief, specifically UFOF. The critically acclaimed spring-ish, summer-ish release that of course preceded. I don't know why I'm doing this long-ass preamble. So basically, we all knew that Big Thief had to be on our list somewhere here on the podcast list, and ultimately came down to which album we really wanted to do on here. And it seemed a little split between this one and Two Hands, which while I do prefer, I think, Two Hands just a little bit more. It's got I think any album that has Not is going to be fantastic. But UFOF is very clean. It's very consistent. It absolutely fits the tone that it's going for, and this kind of very, very lush, lazy, summerish kind of vibe. And of course, Adrian Lenker is one of the premier singer-songwriters working in the scene today. I've been losing my voice all day, so also I apologize for the just gargling of audio that is coming through me right now. But yeah, it's a pretty good album. I bought it on vinyl. It's on orange vinyl. It's very pretty. That's it. That's all I really have to say about it.
All right, number 10, Big Thief UFOF. I will rescind any comments that I would make about this album, because this is supposed to be a positive podcast. And speaking of rescinding my comments, at number 9 is Angel Olsen, All Mirrors.
Ew.
And none of us really have that many thoughts on it that are that positive.
Yeah.
The coalition that got this here is not us. We are not this coalition.
That's just
gonna
happen.
Oh, go ahead.
So I was just gonna say that's probably gonna happen when you have like 19 people aggregating an album list and then like pick 4 random ones to be on the podcast.
Yeah, that wasn't our strongest decision.
This episode is very much a dudes rock episode,
Okay.
And the dudes were definitely not the ones rocking this album into the top 10.
I will say I did not listen to this album much in the year 2019, but I did listen to the singles before recording, and I thought they were quite nice.
Well, that's good. like I said, it's not on the year list, so I can't get too negative. Like I said, I'm not the Coalition. I just this album didn't do it for me, and I'm really sad it didn't do it for me because on paper, this is like my shit, but it just doesn't quite work in the execution. And
there's an acoustic version coming out.
I'm
like
actually
months,
that I'm more excited about because I'm like, okay, I want to hear these songs stripped down because I feel like a big thing with the album is that like the production kind of smothers it a little bit, and I'd like to hear it more stripped down and see if there's more stuff that I'm missing. But nevertheless, let's keep it moving to number 8 on our list. Probably the most recent entry in terms of the release. Mount Erie and Julie Doran with Lost Wisdom Part 2. And, of course, Jake, being a part of our Phil Alvrum Discog breakdown, what are your thoughts on this record?
Well, Lost Wisdom 2 is excellent, I think. It's an interesting album in a lot of ways for Phil because, without getting into too much explicit detail, I think it's kind of obvious that his sort of like songwriting has definitely shifted in scope a little bit over the last few years specifically. And at the same time, this is technically a sequel to an album that came out like 12 years ago. So it's kind of interesting to see, that sort of development carry over with his collaboration with Julie Doran. And similar to Lost Wisdom 1, I think Julie and Phil's voices are like the two most complementary sounds that I can think of for some reason. Like when they harmonize together, it's just like always really strikingly beautiful. And I don't know, in terms of like, I guess the content of the album, especially kind of in comparison with like what he's been doing, like his last, couple albums in a way are these sort of like extremely insular and like extremely, I guess you could say like lonely kind of albums and songs. So it's kind of a nice contrast to hear just another voice on it in general. And Julie obviously does a great job of adding that extra texture. I don't know. I guess like I think if you look at his last few albums, like in a progression, moving from like Crow Looked at Me to Now Only to this one, it's like each subsequent album is, it kind of lets a little more like hope seep through the cracks. I guess like this one definitely, feels a lot less horribly tragic, which is I think a good thing.
His wife did leave him though.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. That it's not necessarily like an overtly happy album or anything like that, but it is. I guess it feels more like a reflection than kind of living inside trauma. I guess if that makes sense. And yeah, I don't know. I don't know really what else to say other than like Widows is the rock banger of the year.
I don't have anything to say about this album, but I just want to springboard off of it and ask, how do we feel about, in general, about sequels in music?
Sequels in, just speaking to Lost Wisdom versus Lost Wisdom 2, I feel like this album is only Lost Wisdom 2 because it's like Julie Doran.
Right.
I don't know if there's necessarily any like thematic ties between the two. I think there's some references, but in terms of like the actual songs themselves, I think it's probably just Lost Wisdom 2 because she's on it, I guess, if that makes sense.
Right. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Because like, obviously a sequel in a movie, there's the recurring characters and the premise and everything, but it's hard to, what is a sequel in music?
Yeah, I know, and that's something that Phil's kind of done all throughout his career. Yeah, right. But like, you got the Glow Part 2. Like, I feel like he's kind of always making sequels to his songs and albums.
Because there's no Glow Part 1, was there?
There actually is a Glow Part 1. It's just a song on the previous album. But yeah, he's always kind of, I guess, revisiting ideas and sounds and stuff. And I guess this could be considered that.
Right.
But yeah.
I will jump into this discussion as well, saying that I think, considering the run of Phil's, last, few records of the past couple years, this is probably my personal favorite out of the three of them, going all the way back to Crow. And that's mainly because Crow is obviously, such a hard listen, but this feels much more, there's like a hopefulness to this. There's like a peacefulness and a kind of a resignation that seems to finally starting to ease into. It feels less raw, than his last couple of pieces, which I really, not to diminish those works as well, but I just like the kind of turn of cheek here. And I guess to answer Will's question as well, with the sequel, I don't know. I mean, I actually did go and listen to both Lost Wisdom 1 and 2 kind of back to back, and it adds this very surreal kind of liminal space to both records when it's almost impossible to think of how time is manipulated, at least when listening to them both all the way through, as kind of this one complete collection. But I think that as a story, because I think there is a story here, as an album that is trying to tell a story of just Phil cycling through these phases of his life, I think it absolutely does succeed as a sequel.
Let's see.
Yeah.
I had some thoughts. I'm not as hot on it as you two are. I think it's solid. It's not my favorite of his recent releases, although I think some of the teases on here are really interesting. I think like Widows is the standout track by far, because I feel like it's starting to hint that kind of, that musically I think we're kind of getting a slight shift again, because I think some of my favorite Phil Elverum stuff is, just to put it plainly, it's the studio junkie stuff where he's just in a music studio by himself, just fucking around and figuring stuff out, and then eventually just leads to these great songs. And I think Widows is him kind of easing back into that a little bit, because it's there's some fucking gnarly ass guitars, and the drums are very like Glow Part 2-esque in terms of their like sort of like barbaricness. It's just like it just hits you like a fucking freight train. But yeah, like I said, I'm very interested to see where Phil comes out here, because this definitely feels like a very transitional album of sort of the more stream of consciousness style songwriting he's been doing on these last two records, and then kind of going back, maybe not to a sense of normalcy, because I think after what happened to Phil, you cannot go back to normal. That just doesn't happen. But I think musically, I think he is ready to be a bit more adventurous again in a way. But also, there's a part of me that this is a joke. This is a bit. Don't get mad at me. I'm just joking. But there's also a part of me where it's like, damn, I kind of wish Phil got like super toxic on this album to Michelle Williams. That would have been fun. I think.
I read some tabloid stuff about them like a month ago, and I already forget what happened.
I won't get into details.
Did she like cheat on him or shit?
If you connect the dots, that's kind of where that's where it leads.
Damn,
to.
that's fucked up.
I don't want to speculate too hard, because like I said, it's not my fucking business at all. But I think Phil could really take some influence from Future and put out his DS2. But he didn't, and it's okay.
Oh baby,
I want like a stream of consciousness, like diaristic punk album out of Phil. That's what I think is next.
Yeah, I would definitely like. I mean, like I said, one of my favorite Phil songs is Samurai Sword. And the fact that we don't have that many samurai swords in him is a little sad. So I would like to see some more samurai swords.
Yeah. Give
Phil Elverum a sword. A samurai sword.
I'm all in favor of more samurai swords.
Yeah.
But anyways, yeah, number 8, Mount Eerie and Julie Doran with Lost Wisdom Part 2. If anyone else have any more thoughts, I'm going to go to number 7, which I have a little bit to say on. Which is Mr. Parentheses Sandy Alex G with House of Sugar at number 7. And we talked about this on the pod when it came out, or at least not long after it came out, so there's not much new to say. I do like it. It's weird because it's like it is gone down low. It went down lower on my album of the year list as the year wore on. But I would say after this most recent listen, I think I like it more, although I think most of my criticisms are still the same. Of it's really messy and not in a way where like Rocket is like controlled chaos in its messiness, like the way it kind of builds to the massive genre shifts. This doesn't quite have that structure, doesn't quite have the track listing that really pulls that off. but it's still a really great record. I still think it's got some of his best songs, and I still appreciate a lot of the experiments on this album. I think the whole electronic stretch in the middle, I think, is really interesting. And Batman has fully grown on me. I think Batman is fucking hilarious.
Oh, the Batman's awesome.
I just think of what Primus music video is it, where they're in the plastic cowboy suits. I'm just imagining Alex G in one of those with like two like little cowgirl backup singers and also the plastic suits. But it's a shame that he decided to rework the song for the music video, and it's just like some kind of vague like training. I don't know what the fuck the music video was. But, I think Domino could have spent the money and gave him a ridiculous cowboy suit, and it would have been fun.
Give Sandy Alex G a cowboy suit.
Mm-hmm. Give him a damn cowboy suit. Give him a horse. Give him the whole, like I said, the yeehaw agenda.
Basically, just let's let him feature on the next Old Town Road remix.
Exactly. But yeah, House of Sugar number 7. I'm not sure if anyone else had any more to say.
Yeah, I'm a Sandy man myself. I quite like this album. I mean, I kind of agree with you that I don't think there's much going through some terms of sequencing, but just the individual songs, I don't have much bad to say about it. I just love all the weird ideas, like all the simple ass songs he makes, and he just tinkers with them until they're just this weird ass perfect lo-fi pop perfection. I think my favorite's probably Gretel. I love those weird
Gretel
vocals.
is kind of a masterpiece.
Yeah, those weird looped vocals and everything. Just like he's a very singular artist. He's becoming, I think, because I mean I feel like he's been able to stay true to his lo-fi singer-songwriter roots while using the bigger budget to kind of improve the quality and the tools at his disposal. If you're picking up what I'm putting down.
Yeah. Like I said, you give him some more money. He's still, like I said, he's still the weird ass Sandy Alex G who spills beer on his pants at parties and says he pisses himself.
He's trying to take your guns.
He's still that guy. But like he's also one of the most talented songwriters of his generation who's constantly pushing the boundaries of indie music and always trying something new. And sometimes it doesn't always work, but still ends up being always really interesting. Because I don't think I hate any songs on the album. It's just sometimes the sequencing leaves a little bit to be desired. But if you treat it like it's like 4 EPs smashed together,
oh baby,
it's a little bit. I think that's how
like,
I've taken it now. Is that like it's okay? There are
like the
3 sections of this album,
cow, and he just says, "You're a big old cow."
It's like really romantic. It's really romantic and sweet. It's crazy.
And then the Sugar House is just like a Springsteen impression.
I was
like
at that concert. I was at the concert he recorded that at, and I had no memory of that song.
Really?
It wasn't until the press release came out that it was like, Sugar House performed, at the Duck Room in St. Louis. I'm like, wait, I was at that show. What? I don't remember that. Like, I did not remember the song at all. I was like, I have no memory.
Were you hammered?
I wasn't even hammered. I think I maybe had like one drink. That was it.
Drinks one beer and forgets Sugar House.
I mean, like I said, I would have remembered like a sax coming out too, and I just completely forgot. God. Anyways, House of Sugar, Alex G, number 7.
Can we talk about before we go? Can we talk about his torso?
His torso?
That man he has strapping shoulders. Just you don't see something like that. Will Toledo has nothing on that. Do you think there's any indie singer-songwriters that could beat Alex G up?
I mean, probably.
Mark.
Yeah.
Cause.
No. Well, I mean, he has the old man strength. I don't know.
Kaz is interesting. I mean, Kaz talks too much about how, like, he has to go to the doctor too much and lose weight. But I think Mark can swing.
It hurts when
he
fucks.
He can swing. I mean, he's into boxing.
Yeah, but he watches boxing all the time. I mean, he has at least 2 or 3 songs per album.
I watch basketball all the time. You don't see me posting dudes up.
Well, I mean, you got to go out there. You got to flex some muscle.
I mean, I've seen Mark. I've seen Mark in concert. He can definitely beat up Alex G, I think.
All right.
Although it depends on how much beer Alex G has drank before the fight. If he's dead sober, no. But if he's drank a little bit, he definitely, like I said, he's got drunk dude strength. So I think he could.
Drunk dude strength versus old man strength. Who wins?
Okay. Anyways, number 6. Speaking of dads, Vampire Weekend with Father of the Bride at number 6. Not much to say that we didn't say on the podcast a few months ago. I still think this is a really great record. I still think that Indieheads be whining too much about this album, being like, "Oh, Vampire Weekend, why did you get nominated?"
I haven't been as active on the sub. What is the word on the street?
I mean, here's the thing. Most of the people who really like this album, they're lurkers, so they don't really comment. So the people who are like more active on the sub are being like, "Why are so many people? Why is this album doing so well in the Album of the Year tournament? I thought this was garbage." And it's like, no, I mean, turns out a lot of people really like this record a lot, and it's still like for a long album, it's sequenced really, really well. And I like a lot of the songs. It's nice. It's my favorite Vampire Weekend album, honestly.
It is?
I would say so. I think it's my favorite from them.
Wow.
I think losing Rostam is a net positive for the band, because I think there's a lot of really. I think going into the modern era, there's a lot of goofy shit about those early Vampire Weekend albums that just simply wasn't going to cut it in 2019. And I think
so. But you think the goofiness was coming from Rostam? I
think so. I mean, he is the production force behind those first 3 records. Like let's rewind.
What do you think? What do you think was goofy about the early albums?
I think just again, here's I like those early albums. Don't get me wrong, but there's definitely a lot of really interesting kind of the time production choices and that he would make, like weird sound effects, weird vocal effects that was starting to dissipate a little bit on Modern Vampires. Like, Hannah Hunt was kind of a precursor to like what kind of some of the stuff we get on this new album. But I think like there's still like that goofy Vampire Weekend stuff. There's still like the odd production choices and whatnot, but they're not as abundant and they're not as obnoxious.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely nothing like Diane Young.
And I like Diane Young a lot. I think Diane Young is a great song. But there's also a part of me that's just like, great
produced. It's a massively produced song, because back in 2013, like it was good. Pitch shifting vocals were few and far between. Now they're coming, like people are figuring out how to do it better.
Oh yeah,
but like back then, you didn't hear it like done like that.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, like I said, and that's kind of maybe why. Like I said, I love Diane Young. Cousins is one of my favorite Vampire Weekend songs. That's like one of the most like obnoxious songs they have in their discog. So I don't hate obnoxious Vampire Weekend. I just think that for the more introspective direction that Father of the Bride goes in, I think it is a better approach. Because like I said, I think Hannah Hunt, I'm just going to say it, it's overrated. I don't get it. I don't get the massive love that song has.
I'll stand with you in that.
It's a good song. So I think for the more introspective stuff, I think the direction that Ezra and Ariel Rekstad,
Rekstad.
Thank you. That they go in, I think again that it's a much smarter album choice wise. It's very much Ezra kind of taking over the band. I think like it's very much his.
I agree with that.
Album.
I will echo your sentiments. It's not my favorite, but I do quite like this album quite a bit. It's definitely a different direction. I was very worried back in, what was it now, 2016, when they announced that Rostam was leaving, just because if you look at the liner notes for Modern Vampires,
I mean, he's all over that fucking record. I mean,
all Ezra did was do vocals and play piano on Young Lion. Mm-hmm. And then the Chris has played drums and bass, but everything else, every other sound you hear is Rostam.
Yeah. So and also blow. And then the live lineup where they're like he literally got replaced by like 3 people. Like that's how integral he was to the band. But
Springtime Carnivore was in their band. I'm a fan of her, and I didn't know when I saw them live that was her.
Mm-hmm. And their new guitar player is awesome. I think
that guy rules.
He's fucking great. I mean, I saw him
live.
Did
you see them live? Yeah. That was my favorite concert of the year. Just the vibes were off the chain.
It was a great show. I don't know if I'd say my favorite of the year. It's definitely top 3. I think Black Midi at Pitchfork is still my favorite show of 2019. I
love the stage setup with a big globe, and I loved just the outfits that everyone was wearing.
Mm-hmm.
Like there was some great fits going off, and the classical music between the sets.
Yeah,
it just very rhythm and just very good vibes.
And I saw him, and like I said, it was a unique show because this was the night that the Blues won the Stanley Cup in St. Louis.
And you were in St. Louis?
Yeah, and I was in St. Louis. So like,
are there many people there? Or
here's the thing. Because I was late to get tickets, I had to get like seats in like the nosebleeds, like the very, very back row. And I was like, this is gonna suck, but like whatever, we're gonna have a good time. And then like an usher came up to us and she was like, "Hey, do you guys want to go closer up front?" And I'm like, wait, what? Like, she's like, yeah, because people were going to the Blues game or watching the Blues game. They couldn't make it to the concert, so we got like free tickets, like really good seats. Like we're like ninth or 10th row, like pretty close up front. We had great seats. And then awesome. and then like in the middle of songs, you would hear like cheering because someone's watching the Blues game and they score, and so people are like going fucking wild. And then I don't know what song it was where the Blues actually won, but you could definitely figure crowd went fucking nuts. It was a great time. It was a very special show.
Was Ezra's banter on point?
I would say so. It was on point. Again, they did a really shitty cover of Gloria, which I thought was very funny and cute. But yeah. Anyways, let's.
Actually, I want to get actually. There's one part where he asked. So we were in Irving at the Toyota Music Factory. Have you been there, Dill?
I don't think I have. No.
So actually, it's pretty neat because it's like it's like a stadium kind of thing, but it opens up in the back. So I was in the pit, so it was like inside, but there was a nice breeze coming in. That was nice. But anyways, he asked us whether we wanted to be called Irving or DFW or Dallas, and the overwhelming majority wanted to be called Dallas, which ruffled my feathers quite a bit.
Mm.
I'm a DFW pro DFW. All inclusive pronouns.
I'm split. If it's like a very like Denton specific thing, I'll go with that. But for the larger transplant, I'll go with DFW.
I know Fort Worth's just too big of a city to leave out completely like that.
Yeah.
Cold. So I was pretty mad about that, but I still had a good time in spite of it.
Fire the Bright. It's good, you fucking nerds. Shut the fuck up.
Number 5. There's songs like what's it called? Married in a Gold Rush, and what's another one? They're kind of corny, but I still have a good time with it.
The duets definitely grew on me. I didn't like the duets much at first, but they really grew on me.
Turn your brain off and like enjoy them in context. They're kind of fun, even though they're corny.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't.
Stranger. That song's an underrated bop.
There's a lot of great songs on this record. You know what album has a ton of great songs according to you, Will? Our number 5 pick for album of the year, Charlie Bliss, Young Enough.
Already. So this was my personal album of the year, Charlie Bliss, Young Enough. And it doesn't really fit my usual prototype for an album of the year. Usually I go with something more heady or kind of more ambitious. This is a pretty straightforward power pop, indie rock, etc. album. But, and here's the but, well, I think of what I'm supposed to be saying next. I think that, so in my days of when I was actually podcasting for a living to put food on the table for my family of 6, I would talk about bands taking the jump. Bands that start out as one band, then between one album, they just turn into a completely different band. That was Charlie Bliss on this album. I liked Guppy a decent amount, but it kind of felt like the song. It took me a long time to get into Eva's voice. That was kind of shrill and annoying to me. And then the songs didn't feel. They felt like kind of like explosive ideas, but they weren't fully fleshed out songs with beginnings, middle, and ends. But this song on Young Enough, I feel like they took the jump, and they delivered their not only their best album, but the best album of the year. Just kind of the cathartic pop rock songs that deal a lot with like kind of mind trauma, but they do so for catharsis, and also kind of there's still an optimism to the album that I really love. And also they're just fun people. Like just a few days ago I was watching the Ignorance is Bliss. They did this an hour-long reality show episode on YouTube where they like do like a satire of a reality show with like Spencer and Eva and all the gang we all know and love. Where it's all good. Anyone have any other thoughts?
I listened to it for the very first time like an hour ago. And I thought
really?
It was good. Yeah.
There we go.
I should listen to it more. I think I'll like it.
A ringing endorsement right there.
Yeah.
Sadly, Jeremiah cannot be on this pod to go up about Charlie Bliss. Actually, I'm gonna pull up his blurb for Charlie Bliss in the decade list, which we'll talk about that decade list a bit towards the end of the
Well,
podcast.
I'm here for riffing. I can't go solo.
I think for me I think like once a year there's like one slice of like a power pop record, or maybe one or two each year that kind of stands out and gives me some nice tasty licks, and that was Charlie Bliss this year. You know, it gave me an itch that, you know, the new Pornographers album.
Really? I didn't hear any new Pornographers in there.
It's not in the same vein, but I think it fits a certain kind of like attitude towards power pop, you know, where it's not too. I think there's always a balance with bands like this when it's how seriously do you take yourselves, and I think
Right.
you know, I think Charlie Bliss definitely, you know, they like to, you know. It feels loose and it feels light, but also it's.
They like to rock out. They like to break shit. They like to have fun.
Yeah, but it's also sort of a thing where it's like, hey, this shit is awesome and we love it, and we're gonna, you know, just keep going at it.
That reminds me of another thing I was going to say, is that this is a band that's very clearly not ruled by a single personality in the band. It's very much a collective band with all of them putting in their own ideas.
Yeah,
because Eva brings very much a pop perspective, but meanwhile Spencer, he was joking about how when he was a teenager he was in a John Frusciante message board.
I can't tell if that's awesome or not.
It's hilarious to think about Dash just talking in the Fruity man.
Yeah,
and he showed some ideas. He's like 13 or 14 at the time. He was complaining about how he did drugs and didn't sound as good anymore. It was amazing.
Yeah. No, there were some really good cuts on here. I think the title track.
That's like, to me, it's a successor for All My Friends. Like, has that kind of feel to it.
Yeah. It has this really sultry kind of melancholic vibe to it that really sets it apart from everything else.
It feels like Prom Night Dance.
Yeah.
In a good way.
But I mean, some other Camera is an absolute liquor of a track.
That's a liquor of a tune.
Yep.
Capacity,
I don't even know what that means.
That's a great self-empowerment anthem. And then
I think it was the lead single.
That was the lead single.
Yeah.
Very good. And Chat Room is a great cathartic kind of a breakup, kind of online abuse.
Yeah.
But taking control of the story.
Yeah.
Very, very, very good stuff. If you haven't listened, if you like rock and roll music with guitars.
It's a very lean album too. It's just 40 minutes.
It's perfect for your commute.
Yeah.
However.
Yeah.
Matty. I was gonna read Jeremiah's blurb, but you know, I will say my behind the scenes. Here's the thing: I don't have much to say about this album. I will say though that Jeremiah, to source some behind the music, getting his blurb together for this, which on our top 100 albums of the decade list, which you should read if you have not already, because it's a great list. We did a great job on it, and like I said, I have some more news regarding our best of the decade pods at the end of this specific podcast. But getting that together was a fucking mess because Jeremiah, the first thing he sent was complete fucking nonsense. He was drunk. He had his mechanical keyboard. He couldn't type. He was playing XCOM. He was saying fuck the elders. I had no idea what was going on. But he put it all together, and it's funny. I think this is actually the highest ranked 2019 album on our decade list, although it's only at number.
Kasha, he brought in a ringer,
and I don't think Kasha. I don't think she got her list in time for this one. So
it would have been probably number 2 or
probably.
So,
no, I think
whatever the case,
if she put it at number 1 or 2 on her list, then it would have been.
Oh yeah, it would have. Yeah, it would have. I mean, looking at the math, it would have gone to number 1. But you know. Whatever the case, Charlie Bliss, Young Enough, number 5. Number 4, One we won't talk about too much because we did say a lot about it at the time. The new Wise Blood record, Titanic Rising, at number 4. I still think it's really great. It is. It's not my favorite album from her, but I will say it is probably her best album. It is her really putting the pieces together for this elaborate, beautiful, majestic album that just sounds fucking great. It's very timely, and I'm very excited that this record like broke through the way it has. It was the subreddit. They finally voted for a woman to be the album of the year. But of course, at number 2 was Igor, which is the Joker of albums in 2019. But you know,
if you were Chucky Feelers, you can't listen to this album.
I will say, okay. I'm just because this is the only chance I probably get to talk about Igor now that I brought it up. What the fuck is wrong with y'all? Like, what the fuck is wrong with y'all? Who...
I like Igor, so I can't talk, but I also think that he's a terrible, annoying person.
That's the thing. Here's
the thing.
If you
just happen to make a very good album.
If you like Igor, that's fine. I think there's a lot of things to like about that record, but to be like, this is the album of the year. This is, you know, I remember fucking nerds on Indieheads got mad that we were like removing Tyler because it's just like, no, like I don't really think it's suited for Indieheads. Like he's like one of the biggest rappers out.
It's not really even a rap album, man.
Oh yeah,
Matty,
that fucking
Matty, you're about to get our Grammy press passes revoked. I would strongly advise against.
Well, I think Tyler's.
I had a great time the other night fraternizing with the biggest names in music.
Anyways,
no, they're not.
I was gonna write a whole spiel about Igor when the subreddit list came out because I found out pretty early on that it was gonna be number 2. But here's the thing: it's doo doo, it's pee pee, it's poo poo. I don't like it. I think it's poorly written.
Except for the part we said there's a lot to like about it.
Well, here's the thing: on the surface, there's a lot to like about it, but it doesn't appeal to me. Like the production, yeah, it sounds good, but if there's no core emotional, if there's no emotional core to grab me in, what's the fucking point? It's just empty gestures. You know, like the whole story of the record, I think is fucking stupid. It's like I said, it's the Joker of albums in 2019. I
like Joker too, so I mean,
well, let me make my point. Let me see what I'm trying to say. I just think it's a really poorly written album that it's like I don't. For the characters on the album, I have no investment in any of them. They don't appeal to me. The only one that's actually written is Tyler's character, of course, and even then he's a loser, a dimwit. I don't care about him. You know, you want to talk about an album that came out this year, which we'll maybe talk on a future pod. The new Andy Schaaf album, in terms of doing like a concept record that tells a story throughout, that's how you fucking do it. That's how you create empathetic characters and really build a strong core story behind an album. That's how you fucking do it. Not what Tyler did on Igor, which I think is just it's shit. Anyways, this is about Wise Blood and her great record, which is very compelling and nice. Excuse me if allow me to go off a little bit. I apologize, but Titanic Rising, it's still great.
I'll let you talk your shit.
Titanic Rising is still great. It's still a great record filled with a ton of really great, unique songs, and I'm very excited for the future of Wise Blood. As I mean, like I said, really blew up this year. It's gonna probably keep moving on as the years wear. You know, if she's quick with a follow up. So yeah. Now into number 3. What were we gonna say, Jake?
I was just gonna say I saw an interesting take on Twitter where someone said that Titanic Rising was like a not annoying version of Pure Comedy by Father John Misty, like that album, but without being annoying.
I kind of get that. I mean, obviously, like they toured together, and they're both on Sub Pop. Like it's the tour that she did with him was probably why she got signed to Sub Pop and also collabed on his record. So it's like I kind of get that a little bit, but I do think they're like two vastly different albums. Like Pure Comedy is a very like Wise Blood isn't a wordy artist. Like she says a lot in her songs, mind you, but like not to the level of Father John Misty where she's writing like these really sort of like overly clever lines. She does.
Manifestos.
That's not her writing style. She's still, a little wordy at times, but she's not trying to do that. She's trying. It's more honest, more open. There's still like a really unique turns of phrase, and there's definitely a lot of hooks and lines that just grab you because it's just like, oh wow, like how I mean, who would have thought to write like True Love is making a comeback, like who else is gonna write something like that, like just this succinct line that really like goes, oh that's it really be like that sometimes, I don't know.
Yeah.
I have a tough time like articulating my thoughts on this album, honestly. Like, but it's just fucking great. It's just like unfathomably like such a great record.
I have no thoughts whatsoever about the music of YS Blood. However, I think that she serves looks on Instagram.
She's a queen. She's the fits go off.
Her fits go off. Her makeup.
She was fucking amazing live.
Her filters.
She was fucking amazing live. Like I said, it's gonna be weird because, like I said, I saw her at a pretty small venue, and it's gonna be like, oh, the next time I see her, it's gonna be like in a pretty big venue,
Right.
So
how was she at Pitchfork Fest a few years ago?
Oh, she was great. She was great at Pitchfork Fest too. Me
and AJ went to see Cherry Laser instead.
You should have saw Wise Blood. She had a fucking amazing Vitamin C cover that I kind of wish would come back to her set list because I think it's pretty great. But nevertheless, let's keep it rolling. Number 3. This is an album that we surprisingly never got to talk about on the podcast and in depth. But number 3, 100 gecs with 1,000 gecs. And this one was, when we were getting this list together, this one was interesting fall because as more lists kept coming in, or as like lists were being updated, this just kept climbing the polls. Like this just
it did
kept
the
rising.
opposite of what our album like award tally usually does, because usually after the first couple of people get their stuff in, after that it'll like decline or switch spots or whatever. No, this kept fucking going, and it freaked me out. Like it climbed, it went from I think like borderline top 10 to like very solidly top 3, and this was like I think the margin was like maybe 5 or so votes.
A scary thought is that if I had submitted my list maybe 2 weeks later, it would have been even higher, I think.
Yeah.
Because we didn't, even though this took forever, I don't think we re-updated the list because it was just like, whatever. But this definitely, I don't think this would have been album of the year, but like, it could have been. I think with another, if we all redid our list, I think this could have had a higher chance. But it's at number 3, and it's a fucking great record. It is one that it is one of the most addictive records of 2019. It's probably the one that I listen to the most, just because all of these songs are like, I get a massive sugar high from this entire record. It is fueled by white monsters and marijuana. It is, it is fucking. God, what were you gonna say, Jay? Because I'm trying. I gotta get my thoughts together. I gotta get a spiel in my head about why I love this record.
I've never done a bigger 180 on an album, I think, in my entire life. Like the first time I heard it, I thought it was like truly, truly bad, and I did not want to listen to it anymore. And then for some reason, I listened to it again, and then at some point, it just like kind of infected my brain like a parasite, and then I think, I don't know, I listened to it like so often. It's probably also my most listened to album this year, because you're right, it's basically just like auditory methamphetamine, because I don't know what it really is about it, but it's like every single pop trope from like the early 2000s mixed with like weird bragging, and I don't know, it's just like kind of unfathomably catchy. I don't know.
I mean, it's just, it's super catchy. It is like two artists at the top of their game, just like going back and forth and just being like, basically like one-upping each other in the various aspects on this album, from like the production to the songwriting to the lyrics to the singing. It's just like, and I will say, I haven't listened to a whole lot of Laura's solo music before this album, and I intend to try to check out more of her stuff. Dylan's solo stuff, however, I've heard enough of it where I definitely feel like Laura was like this missing link for him in his music. I feel like there's always something missing throughout a lot of his stuff that I think Laura kind of is the the skeleton key to, in terms of unlocking certain things and sort of adding certain things to his to the tracks that I don't think Dylan would have been able to do solo per se. I think she's the heart and core of 100 gecs. But really, this is just, like I said, just a really great record. One that, again, that has slowly crept up on the consciousness of 2019, as people have been like, I mean, this is the sound of the 2020s going forward. If we want to pick a record that's like, okay, there's two records that I think this year that have come out that are like, okay, actually, like probably more closer to like 3 or 4 of like, okay, this is the definitive like Gen Z music. You know, even though that Dylan and Laura, they're both technically millennials, they make music that appeals to Gen Z kids. So I'm gonna.
How old are they? How old are they?
I want to say 25 and 26, or 24 and 25. In that,
that's shocking.
Mid-20s.
I've seen. Oh, sorry. What were you gonna say?
I'm taken aback. I'm shocked, stunned, dazed, confused.
I've seen a lot of people say like this is the future of pop music, and like it's going to be super influential in like the sound of the 2020s, which I can see to an extent. But at the same time, I also feel like there's so many people who just like viscerally hate it that I don't know if this type of sound can ever kind of gain that much actual credibility. Also, my 19-year-old brother does not like it, so I don't know.
I absolutely adhere to the camp of what the fuck is this? I wouldn't go as far to say I hate it. I just think that it is one of the most viscerally upsetting and confusing things I've ever heard in my entire life. However, I can also, whenever I listen to it, feel the neurons in my brain just dying off one by one in this like very fuzzy, like just beautiful supernova. So who can really say if it's bad or not?
I feel like I should love it because I'm a casual PC music fan, and this is pretty much just picking off where they left off, but I don't get it.
Yeah, but PC music hasn't actually been, other than like Hannah Diamond, like I don't think anyone in that scene has actually been like doing anything all that interesting since like 2017.
Right. And I feel like their songs are kind of like simple, like they just kind of had like 1 or 2 elements going on, and they just did it, like turn it up to 11. But this one has like 30 different things going on.
Yeah, all at the same time.
All I can say,
too many things.
All I can say is that I think I like genuinely like it twice as much each subsequent time I listen to it. So maybe
that's
you will
quite
get infected someday.
Right there.
It is, and it seems like I'm exaggerating, and I'm actually not. I've listened to it like every day in the last like 3 weeks, I think.
Wow.
There will occasionally just be bouts of like I will put on Stupid Horse, and that is all. Like I will listen to it 20 times in a row, and that's all I can just think about.
Yeah, it's like it's almost not like I'm necessarily deriving enjoyment from listening to it this much. It's like my brain needs it. Like otherwise, I'll have like a withdrawal, like physical withdrawal symptoms.
Come get y'all juice.
Go get y'all dumb bitch juice. But like this is a fucking. I mean, like I said, it is like such a wildly inventive pop album. There's so many. Like I said, as Jake mentioned, the vast amount of influences that they channel into this record, but still create like they channel them in such a way that where it's just like it's such an unrecognizable stew. They're just like, okay, I've never tasted anything like this before. I want to have more. You know,
it's like in one song it'll be like pop punk and then emo rap and then it'll be like metal and you're like, wait a minute, I don't know.
It's complete whiplash. Like I said, this album, the first couple listens, it is complete whiplash because the way that I got into this record was, I think Money Machine, the video for it, got posted to Indieheads, and I decided to check it out because it was getting, I think Jack Tiggs, the founder of Indieheads, he was like, he loved Gex, and I was like, okay, I'll give this a shot. And then I listened to Money Machine like 20 times in a row, and I was like, this song is terrible, but I love it. Until eventually, I listened to the whole record, and it went from, okay, this is trashy, but I love it, to this is like genius level shit. Our brains like cannot comprehend the stuff that they're doing on this album. I mean this fully unironically. Like, there is like shit in this album that we're not going to understand until years from now when people are ripping off this record. Like, there's 2 or 3 artists that are like really going to be like, okay, these are the wells that people are going to draw from in pop music in the 2020s. Number 1 is Billie Eilish. Get fucking ready for the next 5 years for there to be a ton of Billie Eilish. She was just ripping off
Lorde, though.
I mean, maybe at first, but I think even I'm not a big Billie Eilish person, but I think she has definitely developed her own sound at this point.
Well, I mean, I definitely agree that that album and her sound is definitely going to define a generation for sure.
And there's, like I said, get fucking ready for a ton of people to try to recreate that sound coming up. Like I said, if you thought the Lorde ripoffs were bad, in the wake of Pure Heroin, you're not fucking ready. Like, I don't think we're fucking ready for the Billie Eilish ripoffs. I'll just say that. And I think 100 Gex. I think Dylan Brady obviously is starting to craft, quite a bit of a portfolio for himself as a producer. Obviously had credits on the recent Charlie XCX album, and is developing a number of artists on his own label, and for Mad Decent, for other artists, I think is, and I hope Laura gets out there too as a songwriter, because I think she's an incredible songwriter. I think a lot of my favorite stuff on this album is clearly stuff that is it is her ideas, it is her work, laying the foundation for some of these songs. Like Money Machine, like that's Laura. 800 dB Cloud, that's Laura. And I really hope that, I would love to see her work with other artists and write stuff for them and work with them, because I think like she's a next level pop songwriter. Like, she's so fucking good. I don't think people really can comprehend like how good she is, and also just go get a little it's incredible to see like a trans woman be able to like have this, just to be so, to have such a platform now, where obviously the Brockhampton tour, where their first tour, their literal first tour is them playing arenas. Like, imagine playing Madison Square Garden on your first fucking tour. That's nuts, and I really hope people, really understand that, that I really think that she's the heart of the group. Not to say that Dylan is an important part of the group. Like I said, it's a very 50-50 ecosystem, but I think people, have talked a little bit more about Dylan, and I think that's because Dylan does a lot more music besides the Gex. He's done a ton of production this year. But I really hope that 2020 is the year that like Laura Lass like really like puts herself out there and really works with some artists, because I would love to hear like collabs and stuff. And obviously I want to hear 10,000 Gex. Hopefully that comes out sooner rather than later, because I'm really excited for the future of this group. Like, they're really one of the most exciting things happening in music right now. And even the people that love them, I still don't think we've like fully comprehended the impact they're going to have on the industry this decade. Like, I know it's early to say, but like I said, big things coming.
Is 10,000 Gex the confirmed name? Because I see everybody say that the next album is going to be 10,000 Gex.
They said that in their AMA. It's probably going to be what it is. They're going to just keep going in multiples of. They're just going to keep adding zeros.
Okay.
They're going to keep adding zeros until they're done. Oh, what were we going to say?
So you got 1,000, and then you got million and billion. What comes after billions?
Trillion.
Then what's after trillions?
They go back to one Gek. They go back to one.
Yeah.
Jillions or quintillions.
I think it's quadrillion, and I think they go up kind of indefinitely. So yeah, at some point they're gonna have to go back to like 10 Gex.
One Gek.
Yeah.
Zero
Gex. When they do the eventual acoustic album, they'll just be 2 Gex.
Oh.
Anyways, 1,000 Gex.
I love the idea of an acoustic album.
I mean,
like an Animal Collective, like
Sung
2002.
Sung Tongs basically is what 2 Gex would be, actually.
Oh my god.
Honestly, yeah.
That's what they are. They're the new Animal Collective. And I fucking hate Animal Collective.
Oh boy. Okay.
We're putting it together. We're putting the pieces together.
The pieces are coming together. But anyways, 100 gex, 1000 gex. Number 3 on our album of the year list. Number 2. Now, our number 1 and number 2, when we did the tallies, they were technically a tie. So you could swap out both of these, and they would be very strong number 1s. But we ended up deciding one slightly outranked the other when we did a runoff vote. So we'll reveal that a little bit soon. But number 2, Purple Mountains with Purple Mountains, Dill. Dill, by the way, if you didn't read their excellent Purple Mountains write-up on the subreddit for the last day of Album of the Year 2019, go read it. It's a great write-up. But gonna take it to you. Let's talk about Purple Mountains. Is Dill here? Are they gone?
Yes.
Oh god.
No.
Dylan. Oh boy. Oh boy. Okay. Purple Mountains.
I'm a Purple Mountain fan.
Okay. You want to lead this
so
until Dill returns?
This is David Berman's unfortunately final album. His new album his first and last album under the Purple Mountains name after the Silver Jews broke up back in 2009. Is a reunion of sorts. And I think that this is his best album since American Water. It's my personal favorite. It has that same sound to it, but just so much more lush. He got their backing band, the guys from Woods, to be his backing band. So it has that same sound, but just more lush, full sound. And just these these amazing, self-deprecating songs all across the album. Then, unfortunately, in the wake of his suicide, take on a whole new meaning. Like, maybe I'm the only one for me. And just all of it, just super sad stuff.
Mm-hmm. God, where the fuck is Dill? Like I said, I don't have a whole lot to say about this record. I am not into it as much as other members of the pod are, but I do think it's a great record. It's one of those things of, like I said, Silver Jews were, before my time, like I said, because they disbanded. They disbanded while I was still listening to, like, butt rock and shit. So,
right.
Well,
have you listened to American Water?
I listened to American Water. I'm a bigger fan, I think, of The Natural Bridge.
That is also a good album.
That's what I'm into the most. But, obviously, hearing about this record being a big, like I said, 10 years since the last Jews record. 10, 11 years since they broke up, and a lot of people kind of, they really just thought that David Berman was done with music. He was going to kind of keep to his word, but, came back, and then, obviously, the tragic circumstances after the release, I think most people know at this point. But this album, like I said, even without his unfortunate passing, I still think this is such a great record that stands on its own.
Exactly. When I listened to it, I was like smiling. I was grinning ear from ear to the entire time.
It's fucking funny.
I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Because I didn't listen to any of the singles leading up to it. I went completely raw, dry, and just I was blown away.
Mm-hmm. Like I said, it's fucking funny. There's a lot of really funny, clever lines in this record. I go, oh, this is why everyone thinks David Berman's like one of the greatest like lyricists ever, because he's really
absolutely. I would say he's on Bob Dylan's. Like, that's the company we're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
When we're talking about David Berman. And the thing is, I'm a huge, well, not huge, but I enjoy Silver Jews quite a bit. I've listened to them. American Water is one of my favorite albums, but I didn't know much about the man David Berman until his passing. And for several days, I was just reading everything that came up about him, and it painted this portrait of just like a beautiful soul. Especially I liked reading about his friendship with Joseph D'Agostino. Is that how you say his name?
It's close enough. From Cymbal Z Guitars.
Yeah, from Cymbal Z Guitars, formerly of Cymbal Z Guitars.
Rest in peace.
What's the name of it? I can't remember the name of the new band.
It's like Empty Country, I think.
Empty something country. Anyways, but yeah, how just like it was. They met the night he played it in Nashville. Barely anyone showed up. It was a pretty bad night. And then just like at 2 or 3 a.m., he heard David Berman's voice saying, "Good set." And then they just formed this friendship, and they talked over emails for years. And then he was going to play the show that weekend.
Because they were going to do a tour together. Because I was supposed to.
Yeah,
go to one of the
he was
shows.
opening for them.
I was supposed to go to one of the shows. I think it was the one in St. Louis, and then like obviously
Yeah, no, he it happened like it was a Tuesday or Wednesday, and it was supposed to open on Saturday.
Yeah, it was pretty soon before the tour was supposed to start. But yeah, like I said, just one of those things where it shocks you. Even with his history of depression, it still shocked me because it's just like he just put out an album and he was about to go on tour. With Bowie was also very shocking. Like, don't get me wrong, but with Bowie, it was like pretty quickly able to piece together the dots. But with Berman, it was still just like such a shock because it's just like he did so much press for the record, and it seemed like he was really excited about the tour. Like I said, I helped set up his AMA, which was it was
a great AMA. He seemed like he had a lot of fun with it.
And I was really excited about that, and then excited to see him. Especially with the new album, I think he was gonna have the Woods Guys be his backing band also on the tour, and like I said, this album is great by virtue of Berman. Like even if the instrumentation was like lacking a little bit, this would still be a great record because Berman is just that strong of a writer. But the backing band is still like it's
absolutely
incredible.
That's what elevates it from a good album to a great album.
The arrangements on here are just incredible. They're so lush and beautiful, and like I said, I think the Woods Guys were totally the right choice to make a comeback. To make they have this sort of despite the lyrical content, to have this like really triumphant return. They're able to kind of roll with the punches a little bit and really add unique new layers to his work.
And they only recorded, I think it's like in like a week or so. Like it wasn't well. Like he just met the guys and he's like, "All right, here's the song. All right, let's go record it."
Yeah, I mean the Woods Guys. I mean they're all. I think
Yeah, they're professionals. They're the real deal. They're legit.
Because I also think that he probably had years to stew on. I mean, obviously like 11 years, but also he was working with like. I think there was some sessions with Dan Behar that didn't really go anywhere.
Right. He like really like wanted this album to be perfect.
Mm-hmm. Which is why it takes so long to come back.
Right.
And then like I said, it's a really great record. It's one that I listened to it for the first time in a little bit today to prepare for this podcast, and I was just like really blown away just by how well arranged it was. And I think this time around, I think my listen to it definitely. You could catch the hint that this was going to be a bit of a farewell, like
right, yeah.
Even despite the very cheery kind of instrumentation, it was kind of clear that like there's some really dark lyrics on here, but obviously it's dark with like it's dark humor a little bit, but definitely like concerning. But it was like, but
yeah, it's not. You didn't think he was gonna kill himself,
yeah, but
you didn't think. No one expects
I'm
that.
kind of improvising on the fly.
Yeah, I mean,
I really thought Jill was going to carry this.
I mean, I think like it's like obviously death is tragic, but it was really touching to see several days of the outpour of fans from him, just talking about how great he was and everything, give him the respect that he deserved that he would not have gotten otherwise. I mean, like he already had plenty of fans, but like you don't get that kind of outpouring of support unless something very tragic happens. So it was really touching to see all that tribute for him, the man that really deserves it.
Yeah, and there's a lot of really unique like sources I wasn't expecting, but like, the outpouring of love, like just he really transcended genres and scenes. Like his work really hit people.
He's a poet. He had a poetry book. Mm-hmm. So I mean, the literature and music communities were. And also, I learned about his family and his dad, which is pretty terrible.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was his mistake. Because what happened is he quit in 2009 to make the HBO series about his dad, but it didn't really go anywhere. And then he didn't work for over a decade, and he went over $100,000 in debt. And I don't know, I've been unemployed for a solid chunk of time now, and I think, and coming from my experience, I think that quitting Silver Jews was a mistake on his end. I mean, in hindsight.
I mean, financially, yeah, because like they were only they were starting to get like a pretty economically a fairly consistent,
Right.
model. But I
'Cause
think,
he never-
like I said, I think he felt truly guilty about his father, and wanted, and felt like that was the right move, was to retire the project, and to kind of stay out of the public eye,
Right.
out of
'Cause
shame,
I'm-
which is unfortunate, because I think any rational human being would realize that, like, you definitely, the sins of the father are definitely not the sins of the son,
Right. Well, the thing is, like, in the early years of Silver Juice, he never toured. It wasn't until like 2005 or 2006, like the last couple of years, where he actually started touring. So there was like less than 100 total Silver Juice shows ever.
Mm-hmm.
So he was just finally starting to get in the hang of live performing. But I just think that, like, having a job and having like a responsibility on the day-to-day basis, that's what keeps people going.
Mm-hmm.
Without that drive, without that something to live for, it's tough to stay afloat.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that could have hurt him in the long run. I mean, like, obviously, I don't know his life completely, but
Mm-hmm.
I think just keep going instead of stopping.
Yeah. I mean, whatever the case, it's, obviously it's too late now, and, I mean, all we can really do is appreciate what we got, and we got, even despite the hiatus, we have a treasure cove of music and poetry and interviews and just various works that Berman did over the years, and it's stuff that I'm I haven't gotten fully into, and hopefully over the next year or so I'm going to try to get to more of his records, because
Definitely recommend it.
But if you're going to end, like I said, since this was the end, it's a great way to go out musically,
Definitely.
like
And I feel like it's lucky that we got. I mean, the album came out a month before his death, and I really feel like we're really lucky to get this album.
Mm-hmm.
It was like a parting gift almost.
Yeah, but yeah, Purple Mountains, number 2 on our list. Here we are at number 1, which of course was tied with number 2, but we decided to do a runoff. This won the runoff. Our album of the year for 2019 is Black Midi's Schlagenheim. The Gremlin mindset has won out in the Indieheads podcast this year, and Black Midi are the kings of this year, and rightfully so, because this is a fucking incredible album. I listened to it today to prepare for this podcast, and I was just blown away once again by, like, holy fucking shit, like, this is so fucking good, and it's one thing that it's a great debut record. Of course, there's a lot of those, but the fact that they're all so young and all so good at what they do, and not just like, okay, it's not like, okay, these are all really talented kids and they have a ton of potential. They are talented kids and they do have a ton of potential, but the fact that, like, off the bat, here's this great record from a ton of really young people that have this, like, fully formed unique identity, like, off the bat, like, that doesn't happen for many debuts, and that especially doesn't happen for, debuts from people like this young. Like, I think, like, the closest equivalent in terms of age and in terms of, influence and the uniqueness is probably like Slint in the 90s, because they were all, like, in their early 20s when they made Spiderland.
Refresh my memory. What was the origin of this band? Didn't they, like, meet on, like, Neo or something?
No. Oh, no. Okay, so the backstory of Black Midi is that they were all, I think either all of them or 3 of them went to the Brit school since they were teenagers. They all were there, which of course the Brit school is a more like arts focused school. So it's produced, like, Adele and Lily Allen, I think.
Did Ed Sheeran go there?
No, I don't think Ed Sheeran went to the Brit school. Adele, I think Amy Winehouse, maybe. I don't know. Anyways, like I said, it's produced.
You're not going to pick up what I was putting down there. The Law Pass House.
What?
The Ed Sheeran diss track.
Oh, I don't give a shit. I don't give a shit about. Like I said, those boys want to shit post. Good for them. But like I said, I don't really, keep it to the albums, boys. Keep it serious. But anyways, like I said, all people who met at the Brit school got, and like I said, it makes me desperately wish there was like something like that in America that was a bit more accessible to kids. Because in the Brit school, I think it's like more like public, so obviously like it's a bit easier to get into. Whereas if you want a school like that in America, you have to be like fucking rich, or you have to be like really lucky with your connections,
or a protege, basically, like the Juilliard. You have to be like the virtuoso.
Yeah, exactly. Like I said, you have to
The best in the world at what you do.
And then you just have to have like really good connections. But nevertheless, so for years they all the members got to really like got to really master their craft a little bit and got to do really unique things. Like basically they got the learning parts of being in a band, they got that out of the way super early. So by the time that they got together, they all had become really great musicians and songwriters. So they got to skip the whole phase, or at least they got the phase out super early when no one gave a shit about them besides like their teachers and whatnot. But anyways, I won't go too much in the backstory. I think most people know. But anyways, graduated from the Brit School, started playing shows throughout England, got the attention of one Dan Carey, the founder of Speedy Winterground Records, and a producer for the likes of like Franz Ferdinand and Bat for Lashes and a number of other pretty well-known indie artists. He took attention to them after they had a residency at the Windmill, which is like a small venue that's kind of helped break through a number of British guitar bands lately. Most notably, Black Country New Road, who be on the lookout for in 2020. They're going to put out a really great record, I hope, as soon as it gets announced. But
that's why I couldn't think of the Simple Z Guitar Band, because like I keep getting Black Country and Empty Country mixed up.
Yeah. But anyways, they did a residency, got the attention of one Dan Carey. And I think actually around the time they had the Dan Carey connection, I think they also did a show with the former lead singer of Can. I don't want to make sure I get the name right. It's like Damo Suzuki, I think.
They collaborate with Can?
Damo Suzuki of Can. They did like a collab live album where they basically just like jammed, and he just sort of, it was more like an improvisational.
These guys got clout.
Mm-hmm. And very quickly, like I said, through their jam sessions and live performances, put together a ton of great songs and kind of slowly built their way throughout the British press, where certain reporters, I think the first thing I saw about Black Midi was like an NME piece where it's like, who is the next great, British band that no one knows about, because they're pretty mysterious for a while. But eventually they dropped 2 singles in 2019, Crow's Perch and Talking Heads, which are not on this album. Those are 2 non-album singles, which is like insane to think about. Like, like they just put out 2 singles. They didn't even fucking like these aren't even on the fucking album. They're incredible songs. But anyways, Schlagenheim comes out. They get signed to Rough Trade. Put out Schlagenheim. It's a fucking amazing, inventive guitar record. I don't want to say rock record because I think they kind of. It's definitely rock and roll music with guitars. Don't get me wrong, but I think it's more appropriate just to be like, okay, it's guitar music.
Or is it more drum music?
I mean, there's a lot of great drum work. Again, their drummer is pretty fucking nuts.
I'm not saying it, but people are saying that the drums are the best part of the band. People are saying that.
I think everything holds together pretty equally, but like the drumming is really fucking insane. Like I think Cameron. I might be getting that name wrong. Let me make sure I get the members correct. I mean, I fucking wrote about this.
I don't give a shit.
I mean, I should know these things, considering that this is number 2 on my on the year list. Morgan Simpson, that's the drummer. Cameron is
you're the host. That's your responsibility.
That's my responsibility. Anyways, this is a fucking incredible record. I talked about it very briefly on the decade list, and this is one of the bands I was talking about earlier, being like, okay, this is like the first like true Gen Z music, in that like it's clear that these guys their influences you can figure that out pretty quickly. They wear them on their sleeves, but they wear them on the sleeves in such a way where the blend of these influences is so unique and so interesting. And there's a lot of like really, there's stuff in this album that's like very risky. Like a lot of bands could not get away with some of the shit they do on this record. Like, I mean, the fucking like various gremlin screeches in the voice of of Greep, you know, like that should not fucking work on paper. That should not fucking work, but it works because deep inside of us there is a gremlin that wants to get out, and Jordy Greep is that gremlin who has gotten out. He's speaking to the gremlin inside of you that wants to come out. You know, the gremlin mindset is very real.
I do not have any gremlins inside of me. Thank you.
Then shut the fuck up, Will. Then shut the fuck up, Will, because this is not the album for you. Then this is the album for me.
No gremlins for me. No, thank you.
I'm gonna kick you from the call because you just shut up.
You can feed me after midnight. No problem.
Hey, you know what gremlins kind of sound like, and they're kind of similar to?
What?
Goblins. You know what goblins? You know what goblins kind of remind you of?
What
some kind of spooky monsters. So, you know, all I'm saying is, you know, when you think about Black Midi, and you know, I'm fully on my Joe Biden shit right now.
What about Black Midi? What about Black Titty?
This is, like I said, this is a contractually obligated podcast.
Literally, no one gives a fuck. We're in a new decade, 2020. That sounds like the future.
Hey, Dill. Before we continue to talk about Black Midi a bit more, did you have anything to say about Purple Mountains because you disappeared?
Yeah. Well, honestly, I came in right as y'all had kind of launched into it. I think I missed my cue or something like that.
you could have just come at any time.
You could have come at any time. I literally was like, okay, I'm improvising because Dill is not here. What is happening?
He's better at doing the talking thing. I'm just good. I'm here for the riffing.
Yes. What I will say is that Will kind of covered pretty much everything that I was going to talk about with that album.
Thank you.
I'm more so on the emotional end of talking about that album, where it's a very kind of, you know, still a very impassioned and kind of raw listen for me a whole lot of the time still. But yeah, I as soon as I heard Will just kind of going off on it, I was fine to kind of take my L. And
thank you so much.
Yes.
But anyways, let's get back to those damn gremlins. Let's talk about Black Midi.
Did Black
what is a MIDI? Let's talk about that.
Is Black Midi like a genre or something like that?
Okay,
like,
so yeah, they got the name because Black Midi, it is sort of a, like I said, like MIDI, you know, like the electronic kind of shitty music. You know, the music you hear in my low effort album review intros. That's MIDI.
Yeah,
and that's basically just like where they just bump up the BPM to like insane levels, where it just sounds like it's hard to explain. It's just like noise music essentially.
Did you make the low Alfred album review music?
No, that it's come from various things over the years. The most recent one came from Jamie from Kiriko Benito. I got it from like some DJ set he did. Anyways,
you should have properly credited him.
I'm gonna kill you. I will kill Will for thrill. I will come to Texas.
Sorry, I'm advocating for the artists. I will not making the music that we love so much.
I will come to Texas. I will go to Gavin first. I will knock on his door and I will say, "Hey, Gavin, can I talk to Taylor?" And then I'll talk to Taylor and I'll be like, "Hey, Taylor, can I borrow one of your swords? One of your
she does have hella swords.
One of your blunt objects. And then can you tell me where Will for Thrill lives? And I'm gonna come to your house.
Well, he's never been to my house.
Bludgeon you with a blunt object.
But I have tweeted out my address many occasions.
I want to talk about how great this record is, and you're really ruining the vibe. All right, the vibes are off, Will.
Sorry. I'm gonna mute my mic and watch the dang game.
Oh my god. Okay. Anyways, Schlagenheim. I really love this record. I think Black Midi, again, they are a very unique band. You know, I mean, obviously some people are like, oh, yeah, they wear their influence on their sleeve. As I've said, they wear them in a way. It's like 100 Gex. It's not like 100 Gex where they're literally throwing fucking everything in the stew. This is a bit more concentrated. You know, like, okay, it's like.
Would you say Would you say they move with a purpose?
Someone had to do it.
I'm going insane. I'm like actually.
You
Going
can always
insane.
say that I'm in love with the shape of you.
Please do not. Oh my god, this is a great record. This is like really a great record. I mean, like I said, for some reason I really do emotionally connect to this music, despite the fact that it's all cryptic and gremlinized and insane. Like, what the fuck is Jordy Griep talking about on most of these songs? I don't know, but I feel it. When he's talking about fucking, a woman with the teeth of a raven and the hands of a porcupine, I feel that. When he's like, I'm like, I feel that too. I feel that too.
It
also,
could be in a different language, and it would not make one iota of a difference.
Mm-hmm. But also, I think, like I said, what makes Black Money really unique is that it is very much like this healthy ecosystem, where there isn't one clear like leader of the band. It's very clear that they're all operating on the same mindset, the Gremlin mindset. They're all operating on the same level, where every member is like very equal in the process of making their music, and it's clear that they've gotten years and years to know each other, because they're able to roll with the punches like so easily.
You have to be tight to record Schlagenheim in 5 days.
Oh god, I didn't even realize it was like that quickly. Like, well, I mean, they had developed most of this live, so that that's one thing, but also the fact that like still 5 days, putting out this record is fucking nuts, And I know that Dan Carey, like, his thing is that he works at a very fast pace, and whenever the bands come in to record with him, usually they know their shit, and so they're able to very quickly put the stuff together. But still, though, I mean, 5 days, that's fucking nuts. But it just goes to show that like how good this band is off the bat. That like their debut record, like these are the first songs they're putting out, and they're this fucking good is nuts, Like, I'm thinking of other like sort of similar bands. I for some reason Interpol is one that I think they have a lot in common with, in terms of the like kind of nutso lyrics and sort of this like enigmatic frontman, and Paul Banks and Jordy Griep. But I feel like Interpol, they took a long time to really develop their sound, and it was a long process for them to get to Turn on the Bright Lights. Whereas with Schlagenheim, this band is still very young. Like, they only got together in like maybe like late 2017, early 2018, and they record their debut within like a year of forming, and it's this good, and it's this fully formed, and it's this so well put together, and it's just nuts. It's fucking nuts. There's so many great songs.
Butts.
I'm just gonna ignore that. Anyways, but also I feel like obviously we talk about Jordy Griep a lot, and I think he's a really incredible frontman. But also I think Matt Clevin is also really good in his own right. I think he also brings a really unique flavor to this record with his tracks with like Speedway and Near Detroit, Michigan, where Speedway is just sort of this like paranoid building. You don't know, like, that it's building, so there's just this this thought in the back of your head that like this could explode any second, and like it could fall apart completely. And I think that's really the art of this record, is that throughout these songs you really feel like they could fall apart at any minute. But the fact that this sort of tightrope that they walk throughout this record, the fact that they stay on it is really nuts. It's really insane. My brain is like really broke. I can't talk about this band. I can't talk about how good this band is. It's just one of those things where you just have to hear it for yourself. The Gremlin mindset. You have to let the Gremlin mindset flow through you. Will, are you playing your guitar right now?
Well, I thought it was muted.
Oh my god. Anyways, our album of the year is Black Midi Schlagenheim. This is a great record. That, again, I was listening to today, and I was just like, fuck! How are they this good? This is nuts! And apparently they have an album coming out, like, next month. But who fucking knows?
Oh, hell yeah.
Wait, seriously?
I think, like, Jordy has teased it on Instagram a bunch. If it like comes out, it will be like a shit post album, and you know what? I'm here for it. It's gonna be a good time.
Black Midi are the shitpost band of 2020, and we are here for it.
Exactly. Like I said, they're moving with a purpose into our hearts as they're one of the best new bands out and the rightful winners of our Album of the Year for 2019. And so, where does that leave us now for the podcast? Of course, Discog Breakdown is still going on with Jake and Alex. What is your guys? I think your next episode is. What's your guys' next? What are the next coming episodes? The next 2 or 3.
All right. So our next episode is sort of like an interlude episode where we're just going to talk about the remaining like loose stuff in the Microphones catalog, and then it's the No Flashlight episode that you will be on.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to talk about No Flashlight, which I think is a very underrated record in Phil's Discog.
Absolutely.
And then, but for the podcast itself, what do we have planned? Of course, as we have mentioned on some previous podcasts, we do plan on talking about every album in our top 10 albums of the decade. We do plan on doing a fully dedicated podcast on these albums. So that means that throughout the next couple months, we don't have any set schedule for when these podcasts are going to come out, because I think it's kind of best to. I think it's best that these are not on a schedule and that we kind of can do them whenever we really feel like. We're going to do them in order, but we're going to try to get them out, hopefully before the summer. I'm hoping.
Can you remind the listeners what our top 10 albums of the decade were?
Of course, I'm getting ready to do that right now. So we're planning on doing 9, maybe 10 podcasts. We're still debating on the 10th one, but throughout the next couple of months, you'll be hearing some in-depth podcasts about Soft Sounds from Another Planet from Japanese Breakfast. We're going to be talking about Good Kid, Mad City from Kendrick Lamar, talking about Kaput from Destroyer. We're going to be talking about Jeff Rosenstock's Worry. We're going to be talking about Twin Fantasy, both versions. We're going to be talking about motherfucking
I got two versions. Wasn't that a Frank Ocean thing?
Yeah. We're going to talk about To Pimp a Butterfly from Kendrick Lamar. We're talking about Psychopomp. Once again, we're going to talk about Blonde, and we're going to talk about our album of the decade, Divers, doing the sequel to Divers Cast, the long lost episode.
Rest in peace.
The white whale of the Indieheads podcast.
Gone but not forgotten, except by everyone besides me, Alex, and AJ.
Exactly.
we remember. We were there.
So
God fucking damn, that was like over 4 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
That's wild that we're still like together doing, even if it's in a diminished version,
Yeah.
It's wild that we're still like all friends and doing this.
Like I said, we celebrate our 5th anniversary back in December, which is nuts.
Yeah.
Because I don't think I could have predicted back then like this podcast lasting more than a year, and the fact that we've been able to do this for 5 years now, even if it's on a reduced schedule, is still pretty nuts. And I'm still like very happy to do this and with you guys. I love y'all, and I love doing this podcast. It's fun. And then also
love it.
And also we might be doing a podcast on Never Hungover again. I'm gonna try to make that happen, because it is our number 11, and of course the one album I omitted from our top 10 was Benji, because we did do a retrospect podcast on that very recently back in the summer. So we probably won't be talking about that album again.
Just re-upload it in order, and then we get a free podcast.
Boom, there we go. I here's the thing though. Could Jackson talk about that record again for another 2 hours? Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
But nevertheless,
I wasn't on that cast, so I have some thoughts and feelings.
You could make Jackson record like 50 different episodes, all 2 hours long, about that album, and he would never once repeat the exact same piece of information.
This is
It's like how
true.
he wrote like 80 songs for this album and only chose the 10 best. That's like Jackson recording podcasts.
Oh yeah.
About this album.
Just put a microphone in Jackson's room, like secretly, and after like a day, you'll have several like fully fleshed out Benji podcasts to choose from.
Oh yeah.
And there's a bunch of Uncut Gems memes.
Yes, Uncut Gems memes and Mark Kozlik's discography. That's the only two things.
No, I was actually going to make a meme, like, that meme format where it's like an audio clip that's like a minute long. It's like talking about music, talking about film, 3 hours. That's our podcast now. We're more of a film podcast.
Oh yeah, we're making the transition. We're going to be, like I said, we got to go.
We're pivoting.
We're pivoting. We're pivoting to film. Anyways, I don't know if I want to announce this early, but I mean, I'll fuck it. I'll announce this real quick. So of course, Discog Breakdown, the Phil Elverum series, which is going to be going on probably until till April. I think is it April or March?
Probably April. Between those two.
But I am excited to announce that once, so of course, Discog Breakdown, it has gotten the podcast folks excited, and I'm happy to announce that that season 2 of Discog Breakdown is happening. Me and Jackson will be taking over as the host, as we will be going through the Death Grips discography starting this summer. So I'm very, very excited to get to work on those podcasts very soon. But like I said, that's a while away.
I'm going to ask you on air. Can me and Gavin do Blink 182?
We'll put you on the docket. We'll We'll figure it out.
Because we could go fucking ham on Blink 182.
Look. Would I listen to it? Yes, but like I said, it's gonna be a while because, like I said, I won't say the next artist we're playing after Death Grips, but
it's Blink 182.
It's not Blink 182. It's not going to be Blink. I can say that it's not Blink 182. I can say that the member that is put together their schedule for like how they're planning on doing the podcast, it will be as long as the Phil Elverum series, maybe longer. It is fucking the band that has been chosen. There is a Herculean task to pick that band for a Discog Breakdown. I'm very excited.
That's
to watch.
Right. It's guided by voices.
Oh my god! I'm gonna come to Texas and I'm gonna bludgeon Wilferthrough in his home. I'm gonna bludgeon him.
You could bludgeon him while listening to the seminal 1996 Guided by Voices album Alien Lanes.
That's classic.
Beto O'Rourke's favorite Guided by Voices album.
How many times can you listen to the album in your commute to Texas?
God. Beto, oh boy. Man,
Matty, how many Guided by Voices albums do you think you could fit into a road trip from St. Louis to Texas? You go. There you go. You have another Discog.
That's a podcast right there.
Yeah. You can make a podcast about this.
I'm gonna do a Discog breakdown on Wilferthrow's on his skull.
Gonna make $1 million?
I'm gonna break down his skull. I'm gonna break down Wilferthrow's skull for everybody. I'm gonna examine it. I'm gonna examine it. I'm gonna show everybody that it's smooth. It's very smooth. His brain.
Smooth Wilferthrow.
Look, ladies, who are you gonna vote for? Are you gonna vote for Smooth Birdie or are you gonna vote for Smooth Wilferthrow at the polls this year?
Smooth Wilferthrow, that's Praxis, baby.
Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this podcast. Once again, our top 10 albums of the year are Big Thieves UFOF, Angel Olsen's All Mirrors, Mount Eerie and Julie Dorian with Lost Hills in Part 2, Sandy Alex G, House of Sugar, Vampire Weekend, Father of the Bride, Charlie Bliss, Young Enough, Wise Blood, Titanic Rising, 100 Gex, 1000 Gex, Purple Mountains, and then Black Midi Schlangenheim as our album of the year. And of course, we have various decade podcasts and Discog breakdowns and more stuff coming for y'all in the very near future. Of course, Discog breakdown every Sunday with Jake and Alex. And the next podcast, who fucking knows? You'll get it when you get it, you little piggies. You'll get your slop when you get your slop. But nevertheless, hope you enjoyed this podcast. We will see y'all next time, and bye-bye.